welcome back to Talking Water with switchwatersupplier.com, and it's one of those videos this month where I'm actually interested. I'm always interested, Graham, don't worry. Switchwatersupplier.com's Graham Mann is with me once again, but again, he dropped a little grenade before we came into the studio and
Boom!
And said off-grid water supplies. Did you know how you can get water out the ground and straight onto site, so it doesn't have to go scooting around the country and probably come back to where it went into the river just down the road?
You can switch water supplier to an off-grid water supply.
Off-grid water, so you don't have to go to. Is that just? How does that work? Did you just get someone to drill and say we've struck liquid gold?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it.
If the water's there,
It's a bit more complicated than that.
It is a little bit more complicated. Okay. Well, it seems complicated from the outside, but it's fairly simple and straightforward.
Okay.
In some cases, the first thing you've got to be using enough water in the first place. So
it's going to be worth your while.
Yeah. Well, if you're production, but even if it's a hotel or any business that's using a reasonable amount of water, with the water charges got up 15-20% or something a year, as we discussed in previous podcasts, then you got to look at alternative water supplies as another name or variation of a name. But at the end of the day, this is where the majority of the water companies get their water from. Portsmouth water is 100%, from deep wells within the rock strata. So it's a sustainable supply as well, because your potable water at the minute, it comes out the ground or comes from service reservoirs. It's pumped miles, maybe hundreds of miles before it eventually gets to your business premises. That has sustainability, value to carbon and all of the environmental aspects as well. And on its route from the pumping station to the customer through the water company's infrastructure, it loses. There's leaks in the infrastructure, so that's environmentally damaging and not a good result. But so in terms of cost of the water and being more sustainable, we just thought we'd put it out there and say, have you thought about switching to an off-grid water supply? And I'll just chuck in a case study which we did a couple of years ago now, where this customer was processing large volumes of effluent, so they were using potable water to effectively dilute what they were doing and then treat what they were doing before they discharge it on behalf of the customer. And they were spending £250,000 a year just on that processed water.
Just on water to put into stuff that they're going to then flush away.
Yeah.
Okay. That's literally a waste.
£250,000. So we did some other validation work and gotten back a whole heap of money on incorrect charging, and I was just leaving the site and I said, what you need is an off-grid water supply, bought your own borehole. And he said, what's that? And I explained it to him. He said, all right, fine. That was the end of the conversation. And I didn't pursue it any further, which is strange for me because I'm always looking for savings for customers.
Savings for customers.
Yeah.
Money to be made, but yeah, savings for customers.
And I just gave that away as a freebie in conversation. And then about a year and a half later, a guy, I can't remember his second name, first name was Chris, he rang me up and he said, oh, Graham, it's so from such and such a company. I said, oh, hi, how can I help you? He said, well, do you know that parting comment when you left our site a year and a half ago? I said, yeah. He said, about the off-grid water supply. And I said, yeah. He said, I've got my own. I said, you haven't done it, have you? He said, yeah. I said, how much that cost? He said, £10,000.
Okay. So they were spending $250,000?
Yeah. So I said, right, so how much have you saved? He said, over £240,000, because the majority of the water we use here was in the treatment in the service that we're providing customers. So I said, wow. He said, so you'd like to jump in the car and come see me? I said, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. So I arrived on site. It was one of these manufacturing sites where you couldn't get anything anywhere. Everything was so tightly packed. And in this particular instance, down the bottom end of the site, he had this enormous tank with big rivets in it. It was like a big boiler tank from a ship, with big thick steel on a concrete base, which he used to put the water in there and then pump it through to production, you see. And there was a brick built something or other to the side of it. So you only had about 2 meters between these two things. And smack bang in the middle was this pipe coming out the ground that went onto a big pump that pumped it into this big tank. And I said, "Is that it?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Wow, I didn't think you'd get it in there." He said, "Well, yeah, it was a bit of a challenge." I said, "What's the quality of water like?" He said, "It's okay, but we're not needing to drink it. I would want to drink it without treating it." But he said that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was not to use potable water in the way that we were doing it. And he said over £240,000 a year saving for a 10 grand
So
investment.
the 10 grand goes into the ground, and is that water then? I mean, is that all yours? No one jumps in and goes, "I'm going to bill you for that water." It's
Well, no, it's an aquifer is a natural underground reservoir. So below ground in all areas of the country, the water comes in from runoffs, from streams, from rivers, drains down through the soil into a natural reservoirs called aquifers, and this is where all the water stores naturally. And if you've got the luck that there's an aquifer within your site demise, you've got to go through the geological surveys and things, which is what.
effectively, if you own that land, you own that land all the way down.
Yeah, well, effectively, you can do
got to
that.
access
You
the
don't
water.
own the water though. You've got to apply to the Environment Agency for the license to abstract the water in the first place. So you've got to go through certain tests. You get an environmental and geological report which tells you essentially what's down there in the first place. If the rock strata then suits that, then we would advise you drill down. Sometimes it's 20 meters, sometimes the water rest level is 50 meters, sometimes you've got to go a bit further, which is 100 meters, and that's when the real cost comes in. But I think the rest water level, which is what they say about the aquifer, below ground was something like 25 meters. So it was there.
So they've got to check just in case you divert the River Trent or something like that.
We're trying to get rid of
It's always good to check that kind of thing. If
Yeah.
suddenly the ships all run dry, and run aground.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, this is. But you mentioned again, you can treat the water to drink it, and so
Absolutely, yeah.
this isn't just about water that's going to be used on industrial sites. This is done on quite a small scale as well in certain places.
Well, there are
Some quite high-profile places as well.
yeah. Well, cat's out of the bag now. Harrods
Harrods,
have their own water supply.
very special water indeed.
Yeah, a borehole, yeah. So when you're paying, £2 or £3 to go for a pee in Harrods toilet, just be
You have to pay to go in.
Yeah, you absolutely.
Do you?
Well, they did when I
They
went
take
there a couple of years
contactless. I
ago.
hope so. Have you washed your hands?
I treated myself to a cream bun and a coffee and a pee. I'm sure it cost me about £2.
More than £2 for a cream bun in Harrods.
No, the pee.
Oh, okay, we won't go there. I literally won't go there. But so you can get that water treated, and it can then be used in shopping centres, hotels, whatever the business is.
Absolutely. Even if you get a poor quality, poor quality, if the water isn't of a high enough quality for you to use for your process, or you want it for drinking water, you can treat that water at source. Admittedly, you have to have a treatment plant on your site, but if you're taking in raw water from an aquifer and treating it at source and delivering it to your premises, that gives you a very, very high quality of water. Because let's not forget that when the water travels from the pumping stations from the water companies all the way to your premises, it's going through leaky pipes, old cast iron pipes, lead pipes, and God knows what to get to your site. Then it's a good quality water to drink. But if you were to treat it at source, so the treatment plant's 10 meters away from the point of entry to the building, and you're treating it, filtering it and UVing it and zapping all the bugs, etc., you can actually get a very, very high quality water to suit your manufactured and domestic requirements.
Good quality water at a good price as well, and that's
Absolutely.
good advice from Graham Mann of switchwatersupplier.com. So have you thought about moving to an off-grid water supply on-site, direct to where you exactly require it? Something to think about. If you're interested, switchwatersupplier.com. We're back with more Talking Water next time.